green stickers means that you're done. Red, you're having problems, and nothing, you're still working on it. If you don't understand my instructions, just ask me. I know what I want, but it doesn't mean that I explain it properly. Okay, so I'm gonna go for it. This is the exercise 2.1. Okay, so I'm gonna create a, so we have family vector. I just want to call it again to be sure what we have there. Okay, it's there, and I want to create a vector that is called age. So I assign to age these values. Okay, the combination that I chose these values, you have probably different age, it's totally fine. And then we are gonna create a data frame from those two. So I'm gonna call it family df for data frame, and I'm gonna do a combination of family and age. Would this work? What do you think? No? Do I run it or I don't run it?
Run it.
I run it. I want to see what happens. Okay, age not found. Oh, perfect. Right. I didn't run it. Okay, I ran age, and I'm gonna run this one. Okay, something happened. I'm not very sure what. We have plenty of things here. I like running it here and seeing it, so I'm just gonna highlight that section and run it. I could just type it on my console or on the script. Okay, and it's giving me, what is this? One vector. Okay, so it's a combination of cells with values, but these are all together in the same thing. We will see how a list looks like. We'll see it. So this is not what I want. So what do I have to do? I'm going to take this same thing, or to be quicker, I'm going to take this. I'm going to assign to family data frame a data frame with family and age. Okay, so this one should work. I double check here. Perfect. 2 columns, 4 rows, and you can see it here, data in the environment. If I open it, I can see the different columns that we have. The first one is a factor. I don't know if we want it as a factor or not. We'll see. With 4 different levels. Okay. The second one is age, which is a numerical factor, and these are the four first elements. Okay. Family data frame, it has 4 observations and 2 variables. So this is a summary that you always have there that you can refer to. Perfect. So I have here an advanced section. You saw it? Some of you did it? Did you try? You want to try? Okay, don't look at it. You have it there? No. Okay. So I'm going to let you look at it at home. Okay. You want to look at it now? Yeah? Okay. So give me a second here. I'm going to open this so you cannot see. You can still see. So we have this structure function, okay, that it's gonna tell you the structure of that data frame. So let's examine it little by little. Here it's telling you what type of data that is, and this is a data frame, so perfect. It has 4 observations and 2 variables, same thing as before that we saw here in the environment. But as we mentioned, it says it's a factor. Okay, I wouldn't have thought that the name is factor. I would have thought it's just like a string. So why is it a factor? So let's look at it. If you click question mark and data frame, perfect, thank you. I just did it while you were doing the exercise, but thank you so much. So you just click question mark or data frame or even help and data frame. You get here all the description, and if you look at here in this area on the right, if I click this one here, I'm expanding that window, okay, so I can see better. And somewhere here it says here it says that this function data frame, if you have a character variable pass through data frame, which is what we had, so we had this character vector with the names of the family members. It was a character vector. If we pass it through data frame, they are going to be converted into factors. Okay, so this specific function does that, and you need to know that, otherwise you're like, why this is a factor now? Okay, obviously you don't need to know it because you don't know it, but if you have questions, why did this happen, you can go to the documentation or you can just Google it. Okay, so just Google why my character vector is now a factor, something like that, and Google will tell you. Okay, we're going to see a little bit more of this later when we see factors as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about matrices and then we're going to have a 5-minute break. Is that okay? Yeah. So we're going to create a matrix. We're going to generate it. I don't think you will have to do this for your work, but just to practice a little bit with matrices in case you find them depending on what you're doing. So to generate a matrix, I'm going to create an object that it's a matrix, and it's called number matrix. And I'm going to assign this. This matrix word here, it's again a function that is going to create a matrix. So the different arguments, the different pieces that we have inside that function are going to be data, and these are going to be numbers 1 to 20, number of rows 5, and number of columns 4. Don't get too concerned about this because again I don't think you're going to be using this function much, but if you want to know about it, you can just do question mark matrix, control enter, and then you have the documentation in here. Okay, I'm going to minimize this so we have always an eye open for environment. So I go here and it goes back to its original size. You can also modify the size of these windows here on the edges. Okay, so that's very useful sometimes if you want to see different plots, or depending where you are working, you might want to change it. So we already talked about the help function for matrix, 1 question mark. Sometimes we have these 2 question marks because I didn't mention it, and we'll see this like later on, but R is working with packages, which are like boxes of tools, boxes of functions. And sometimes you want to work with this one. We will be working with this one for the network. And if I do question mark of that one, it says it cannot find it. Okay, this is because the package where I have this tool, it's not downloaded into R. But it's telling you, okay, I don't know anything about it, but you can look it up in the internet with 2 question marks. So if I do 2 question marks and the name of that function, it's going to look for it. But for this, you need to have network connection. For the other things, you don't need to, but for this, you will need to. And you have it here. So it's for the package called iGraph, and this is the name of the function. So I can click it there, and yeah, I will see it inside. Okay. If you want, one day we can look at the different, at the help window here, we can go little by little and examine it. I don't want to start with that now because it's very, very boring. But one day we will look at that together, so we can cut it into pieces. So another example here, I'm creating a combination of these 4 numbers that is called cells, and I'm doing a matrix with the data that is called cells, 2 rows, 2 columns, and by row you're gonna fill in that matrix by row. If I don't say this, and I go to the documentation for matrix, you see that this is the function with all the different arguments that function can have, and by default, by row is false, so it's gonna populate that matrix by column. Okay, so these are different things that each function has. You don't need to know them by heart. You can always look them up. And we created this matrix. If we want to index a matrix, it's very, very similar than, I mean, it's the same, exactly the same as a data frame. So this one here will giving me all the rows and only the 4th column. Wait, I didn't run it. So I get an error there. It's like, oh, it doesn't find it. It's because I never ran it, so it doesn't know what NB matrix is. So now it knows, and it should be able to find it. So there's this other exercise, C22. So if you can do it, it's very similar to the one we just did. And after that, you can have a break. Maybe 5 minutes, so at 3:30 we'll be back.